amount of destruction that threat can cause. So if we wait here for their permission and then go execute, it might be too late by that time. Then who will be answerable for those lives? Would the UN or the countries pro accords answer them? But we know we could have saved those lives, but we didn't get the permission and we ended up not going there. I'd like to hand it back over.
Thank you, Delegate. Point well noted. Up next, we have Tichala.
Okay, so I would like to go ahead and make my point. First, we cannot go ahead and question the functioning of the UN by just taking one incident from the past and repeating it again and again and showing that UN was not able to function well. UN, maybe that is something that US probably having a main recognition under UN is something that was bad. But I think over the years, UN have made it more democratic, and UN has also helped a lot of countries in Latin America and the poor countries to go ahead and do help and aid these countries. So it means if we have one bad incident for UN, then I would say we have 90 plus good incidents also wherein UN has had supported and worked in the best of all the communities. So just questioning on say one single point is something that I won't think is a good example to portray with. Secondly, talking about the question that you simply stated about quick and stalling, I would like to say UN has the best of experts from all over the countries, right? So you cannot simply go ahead and say that it would take right tapeism and would probably go ahead and delay things, because UN already has best specialists, top delegates from top institution and the best of best people from all over the world. So you cannot compare UN to any state or any state democracy or any public authority if that's what your comparison of say quickness or stalling is. That's it from my side.
I have a point of question.
So do I.
Delegate, sorry, just wait for me to recognize you. Yes, Xi Jinping.
Right. So if your logic is that because UN has done 90 good things, so we can excuse 10 good things while having deliberations, why doesn't that logic extend to the superheroes as well, who have done 90 good things, and we are just singling out Lagos, we are singling out certain bad outcomes?
May I?
Yeah, I will just give Tichala some time to respond to that first.
But you previously said that cross POI are not allowed. If you want me to answer, I can, but just wanted to know, are they allowed or not?
Sorry?
When I remember that when Donald Trump wanted to answer, then you said that cross POIs are not allowed. So means I can answer, just wanted to know, like, can we answer cross POIs or not?
Yes, Delegate, usually that's up to the discretion of the chair. But if because the moderated caucus is not over yet, that time we were starting with a motion, but usually the chair will allow responses at his discretion.
Okay, so the question of the UN committee at this stage is not what about Avengers, that the topic of the discussion at this stage was probably about decision making in UN with respect to superheroes, and that is something that what you quoted about what Avengers should be doing or shouldn't be doing is not primary agenda of this meeting as of now, of this motion at this stage. Talking about Avengers is something that we will be doing in the main discussion. This motion doesn't revolve around mistakes that Avengers did or mistakes that Avengers didn't did. The topic to be focused in this meeting is primarily thinking about the decision making and the approach that UN should follow while going ahead. And I believe the question that you put forward isn't actually related to what the agenda of the meeting was being set up in the first place. Thank you.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, Delegate.
Was that question out of context considering the fact that the moderated caucus is also considered a subset of the agenda?
Delegate, the chair is not allowed to have an opinion on that.
Right.
If the delegate feels that it is out of the agenda, then
Sure.
However, your point has been noted. Up next, we have a point from Captain America.
Yeah, so I'm Tichala pretty much answered my question, but I just like to point out I didn't mean to undermine the UN, but what even I was trying to say was just because you told me that I took one incident out of which and I pasted in such way, the same thing applies to us as well. Just because some bad things happened at Sokovia and Lagos does not mean we operate in the same way in every single situation. There have been a lot of times where we've saved a lot of lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add that it's not about just Sokovia. Eric,
What point do you raise?
yeah, I want to oppose him that it's not just one incident.
Sorry, if you want to oppose him, then you can say that in your speech. However,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
we will move on. Are there any other motions? We can either have a motion to extend the current moderated caucus, or we can introduce a new moderated caucus, after which we will have a guest speaker address committee. Delegates, seeing there are no motions on the floor, we will have a guest speaker address committee. If you could just give me 30 seconds to go and invite him. Good afternoon, delegates. I come to address United Nations Organization on Mutants and Registrations of Superhumans. My name is Isaac Swarovski, and I come from country of Sokovia. And I have one message to give you. Listen to me well, delegates. I have one message to give you. Do not trust Tony Stark. Tony Stark is liar. Tony Stark is cheater. He will come to your house. He will rob everything you have. Let me tell you a story of Sokovia. Sokovia was thriving, prosperous city. Sokovia was doing very well. My daughter, she just got into big US university. She got into Trump University, which is what we know best university there is. However, she about to leave, and on that day, we see robots flying outside our house. A country fall from sky. My face become disfigured. Now my country is in mess. It is complete shambles. I have to keep this to fight off wild animals. Let me tell you something. Whatever Tony Stark tell you is lie. Do not believe him. And do not sign Sokovia Accords. Because once you do that, the entire world will be destroyed. Yes, thank you, Mr. Isaac. Will you be accepting questions? Yes, I will be accepting questions from these UN infidels. I will now accept 5 questions. Delegates, please raise your hands if you have questions.
Anyone apart from Reed Richards? Reed Richards, Wade Wilson.
You can start asking questions if you want, because I cannot see. The attack on Sokovia, it make me lose my eyesight, and it make me lose my ability to test.
Don't you think that saying Tony Stark as a criminal and evil guy is wrong? Tony Stark, he diverted the atom bomb that was sent by the government during the 2012 Avengers attack by Loki, and he himself did not care for his life, and he saved the life of the whole world, whole New York City. He prevented damage worth of billions of dollars. How can you say that he is a robber?
Delegate, which atom bomb are you talking about?
Yeah,
believe you
during the
mentioned
2012
atom bomb.
during the 2012 attack by Loki and Jeju Chitrai army.
I don't believe that was an atomic bomb because that would naturally lead to more collateral damage. So,
Yeah, but
my-
Tony Stark diverted the bomb and sent it to space.
Delegate, let me answer that question. You Americans are so focused on your world, your little world in America. Well, let me tell you something. Surprise, surprise. There exists a whole universe outside of America. And these people are innocent people whose lives that Tony Stark has ruined. So sure, you Americans may praise him and even call him a god because of his big ugly building in the middle of New York. But for us, Tony Stark is nothing but a monster. If I meet him, I will go to him and spit on his face because he is a dog, and that's how he should be treated. Tony Stark's weapons have caused more damage to the rest of the world than anyone has in history. Tony Stark is the worst dictator of them all.
Yeah, what about Tony Stark getting the whole Infinity Realm right and saving the half of the population of the whole universe?
Delegate, if you're talking about the events of Infinity War and Endgame, they will not be applicable over here because the timeline for this whole event is 2017, not beyond 2017.
Okay, so if Tony Stark created Ultron, he also saved Ultron from transferring his body into Vision, and he created Vision, who was 10 times better than Ultron. If you see a bigger time frame, Vision was able to save lives of more people than Ultron was able to destruct the lives of people.
Delegate, do you have any facts to prove that claim that Vision saved more lives than Ultron killed?
Yeah, Vision obstructed Thanos from snapping.
I'll remind you again, this is Infinity War is not being talked over here. That never happened. We are in 2017, according to this event. You just said that Vision saved more people than Ultron killed. Do you have any factual basis to back that?
Yeah, I was taking events after the Civil War after 2017.
All right.
Delegate, let me also tell you something about your Vision. He does not bring my daughter back from the dead. He does not bring my wife back from the dead. What do you have to say about that? What do you have to say about my Sokovian brothers and sisters who committed to their death? All because your Tony Stark wanted to play computer games.
If there is a world outside USA, then there is also a world outside Sokovia. You can't only talk about Sokovia. There are 190 other countries too. So if there is world outside USA, then there is also a world outside Sokovia.
Well, let me tell you something, Delegate. There is no world inside Sokovia because your favorite boy, your golden boy, Tony Stark, blew it to the ground. Now you say there is world outside Sokovia, but that does not help my dead brothers and sisters. It does not.
Delegate, you keep saying Tony Stark was responsible for Ultron, but actually it was Scarlet Witch who manipulated Tony Stark's mind to create it. He was just a weapon, not the weapon holder.
But because Tony Stark created it, so like, do you feel like, with great power comes great responsibility? So
no, Scarlet Witch did not manipulate Tony Stark's mind. Scarlet Witch got into Ultron and saw destruction.
And yes, like Reed Richards is partially right. Even before Scarlet Witch comes into the scenario, Ultron had already gained enough artificial intelligence to take matters in his own hands, and that's why
Yeah,
destruction was.
wait. I got the point. Vision was able to stop Ultron during the Jarvis was able to stop Ultron from taking over the whole internet and taking over all the devices.
The point is,
Yeah,
Tony
no, we
Stark
got to
has
know.
access to such technology.
No,
that
we
can
got
have-
to we got to know about this during the Avengers Age of Ultron, that Jarvis was in a in return under Jarvis was fighting Ultron and preventing it from getting access to all the devices, all the weapons, and all the atomic bomb codes.
See, nobody is
there
saying.
if there is positive, there is
I will
negative.
now accept
If there is
one more
negative,
question.
no, if
Yeah,
if there is negative of Ultron,
I'll
then there is
just
positive
say-
of Jarvis too.
I'll
Like
just-
Jarvis and Vision are basically the same.
Delegate, please
The
maintain
lack of
decorum.
empathy
Wade
and discipline
will-
from
so,
the American teachers just shows how USA
Delegates, please maintain decorum. My country is in anarchy and we are still more civilized than you people.
Wade Wilson and Xi Jinping had also raised their hands, so I would just want to hear their questions too.
We will
Yeah.
accept questions.
So I would like to start off by saying I relate with you, Mr. Isaac. I have a disfigured face as well, and this is all because of USA Colonel Stryker, as you might know. He's one of the people who has caused so much of these problems for me, as the US Americans or the Tony Stark has caused a lot of problems for you. So I would like to say that I relate with you. They've taken my wife as well, but I don't think you should take it very personally. There's a lot of killing in the world. There's a lot of destruction. It goes on. It's a part of life.
Just a fact check. Colonel Stryker or Project X, so the US government hasn't taken a wife. Ajax has taken a wife. So yeah, that's our own matter.
Yeah, you were asking me the fact that how Vision prevented more lives than
Reed
Ultron
Richards-
destructed. Yeah, Vision, that is Jarvis, prevented Ultron from getting access to the atomic bomb codes. That's how he prevented more lives than Ultron destructed. Ultron just destructed Sokovia. If Ultron would have got access to the atomic codes, he would have destructed the whole world. That's how Vision prevented Ultron. Vision prevented Ultron from killing more people, and it prevented more lives than Ultron.
Delegate, we aren't
Yes.
talking in hypothesis, we're talking in facts. We're talking what the incidents happened, because then we can give endless hypotheses that this person could have
No,
saved this
but
person could have destroyed this.
But this
And,
even actually happened. Jarvis prevented Ultron from getting access to atomic codes by changing the codes every millisecond.
Yeah, but like it did come at a collateral damage. It did, like, the so-called protection also came at a heavy human cost, and that's why we have a Sokovian over here.
Yeah,
I'll
the
just,
human-
I'll just allow Xi Jinping to also raise his question. Xi Jinping had
Yeah,
also
sure.
raised his hand,
Right.
if I'm not wrong.
Right. So first is the lack of empathy from these Americans clearly show how Americans here have opinionate about all the events that have happened. So Mr. Sokovian, I completely agree with you. So when Sokovia was a thing, right, and you saw the news and you knew the political scenario of Sokovia, do you think if USA had the knowledge that this was going to happen to Sokovia, do you think USA would have any incentive to stop it?
Okay, when you're talking about US and
I'm not
having
talking to
empathy-
you idiot.
Delegate Reed Richards, the question was
maintain decorum.
addressed- Yeah, maintain the decorum.
No.
Delegate Xi Jinping.
When,
But yeah, Delegate Reed Richards, the question wasn't towards you. The question was towards the Sokovian, the guest speaker over here.
No, he said that Americans lack empathy. I want to say that what about Chinese battling getting access?
Delegate
Chinese-
Reed Richards, you're deviating of the conversation.
Delegate, please maintain decorum. People don't have food to eat in my country and we still maintain decorum. Please, delegate. We will give you a chance to speak.
I'll just repeat my question then. So, Mr. Sokovian, do you think if USA had the knowledge that this was all going to happen, do you think USA would have cared, considering the fact that USA is a capitalistic country which is literally has a Tony Stark controls their economy and stuff?
Delegate, I am very simple man. You should ask my daughter such questions. She went to big university. But I will tell you one thing. I will tell you that I do not believe in Tony Stark. I think that whatever he says is a lie. And the United States of America has been very helpful to Sokovia. They have been very helpful to Sokovian economy. And they have been very helpful to my daughter when she gets into big fancy Trump University. So I will not say anything against the United States government, but I will say that Tony Stark is the reason for the destruction of Sokovia. And now he comes up and talks about accountability. But where is his accountability? Thank you. And that is it. With this, I shall leave the committee. It has been very nice. I
So I
cannot.
have a question.
uh,
So if can I go?
yes, please identify yourself.
If Tony Stark is such a dictator, is such a monster, then why are you against signing of the Sokovian Accords? Because that is exactly what it aims to do: put regulations on the powers of the superhuman.
That is good question, Delegate. I shall think about it. But I have never said that I was against Sokovia Accords. I only said that Tony Stark is liar and he cannot be trusted.
No, you did mention don't sign the Sokovian Accords.
That is only because Tony Stark supports them, and I do not support Tony Stark.
So
I have a
that means you're
question.
bringing your personal, you're bringing a personal enmity.
Delegate,
Yeah, no, then
recognized.
no, you are representing Sokovia, or you are representing your personal enmity opposing to Tony Stark. You need to see the situation and not the person behind it.
Delegate, that is a very blatant attack on my character, and I do not appreciate it. I have just lost 3 of my family members 1 year ago, and I come here to ask you, very educated, very qualified gentlemen, for help. And then what you do is attack me. I am very troubled and I am very disturbed, and that's why I will be leaving.
Okay, if your enemy is
Delegate.
agreeing to your points, then what problem do you have?
I believe the Sokovian gentleman has left us.
Yeah, I want to add 2 points to Jinping's question. First, he said that Americans lack empathy. What about the Chinese getting control of the South China Sea and
Point of parliamentary inquiry. How is this within the mandate of the committee?
Delegate Reed Richards, we are specifically in this meeting, at least, we're specifically talking about superhumans and the impact that their actions have, rather than non-superhuman associated.
Yeah, but
geopolitical
if the
affairs.
Chinese get control over the superhumans, they would use
No, but
their
how
power.
is your South China Sea argument relevant to this?
Yeah,
conversation?
they would use the power of the superhumans to overpower other countries.
Do you have
in
any
South China Sea.
do you have any proof to back up your would? As I said, we're not talking in hypothesis, we're talking in what has happened, what events have happened, because the possibilities are endless for any country. Tomorrow US can start World War III, China can start World War III. Let's not delve into that, because that will be a very broad conversation.
Actually, the World War III was started by NATO.
Reed Richards, again,
Delegate
you're going
Richards,
into a hypothesis. World War III was started
No,
by
no, no,
NATO.
no, no. I'm telling the fact.
Delegate, just one thing. We will continue with our moderated caucus. If you have any points, please bring them up in our next moderated caucus.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, delegates. That was all from our Sokovian friend, Isaac Swarovski. We will go ahead. If there are any points or motions on the floor, we will accept a motion to raise a moderated caucus to discuss what Swarovski spoke about in committee and the ramifications, who is to blame for Sokovia.
Yeah.
That will be accepted. So do we have any motions on the floor?
Motion to open moderated caucus with the topic
Delegate, sorry.
Stark
please
industry.
raise your hand before.
Oh my.
It's all right, delegate.
Yeah. Motion to open a moderated caucus with the topic nationalize Stark Industries. First speaker timing 1 minute, total timing 7 minutes.
Sorry, what was your topic again?
the implications of the need to nationalize Stark Industries. Nationalizing means government acquiring.
All right. How many delegates are in?
Delegate, please state your parameters. Xi Jinping.
First speaker timing 1 minute, total timing 5 minutes.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any other points of motion on the floor? That's okay. We do not have any other points of motions on the floor. We will vote on this one, Xi Jinping's motion to nationalize Stark Industries. All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Could you repeat the motion, please?
The need to nationalize Stark Industries. Nationalizing means government acquiring Stark Industries.
By government acquiring, in your case, what government are you talking about specifically?
I'm talking
Stark
about,
Industries is an American company, so
right, so Stark Industries should no longer remain a private corporate company.
it should be under the American government, according to your topic.
Right, considering the fact that this is like a precedent to the committee, or it comes after UN has already ratified Sokovian Accords, and we are now debating whether we should go on with it. So considering the fact that Sokovian Accords have already been ratified, considering that, I believe that Stark technology should be available to each and every country free of cost. And
should be what? It should be globalized then?
Globalized, yes, exactly. So it should be under the sort of global governance.
And also, did you say free of cost?
Yes.
All right.
So sorry, sir. Under US government or basically under United Nations when you say you are trying to legalize it?
Right, I'm gonna make this clear. So let's say USA has $100 and we have Sokovian Accords where USA has to distribute it among the 117 countries for peacekeeping and all that. So USA has to, for free of cost, distribute Stark technology to all the countries that have ratified Sokovian.
Means you want to say that US will remain the main stakeholder. That is what your point is, or
will deliberate on
Delegates. I don't think this counts as a point of information. I think these clarifications can be made in the speeches themselves. So I think Xi Jinping can answer all these questions when the moderated caucus begins. If you all have further questions, we will entertain a motion to have a question answer session or points to information during the caucus itself. However, this motion passes. Xi Jinping, would you like to go first or last?
I'll go last.
I'd like to raise a point of order regarding the motion itself.
All right, delegate.
Given that the moderated caucus's topic is nationalizing a company in the United States, it's an internal matter of the United States and not a matter of a UN discussion.
Yes, delegate. I think that his point was more about providing Stark technology free of cost to the rest of the world, compared to I think what you're talking about.
If internationalizing is the word, so I just said nationalizing. I don't mean government uses the technology. I mean the government.
Basically, global distribution of Stark tech to all the countries that have ratified the accords.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, that.
All right.
Yes, delegate. That motion passes. We will recognize 5 people. Before we move on with the moderated caucus, I would like to mention that Stark technology in question here has more to do with arc reactor technology in renewable energy. Currently, Stark technology is the biggest renewable energy manufacturer in the world. They have access to exclusive patented technology that has been provided by the synthesization of a new element by Tony Stark himself, which has really led to a lot of progress in the scientific community, especially in that of the United States. So the question over here is whether or not this technology should be available to the rest of the world. We will now recognize 5 people. Xi Jinping is recognized. Xi Jinping, Raven, and T'Challa. We will recognize 2 more people. Reed Richards has been recognized, and Professor X. Thank you. Xi Jinping, you have the floor for a minute.
I'm sorry, before you start, we can ask for extending the moderated caucus afterwards, right?
Yes, delegate, and that's a point to parliamentary inquiry.
I'm sorry, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, delegate, that is in order. You can do that.
No.
We have Xi Jinping, who has the floor for a minute.
Right. So firstly, I would like to make my stance clear, right? Essentially, I'm assuming that because it has already been ratified, in case we go on with this accord, recognize the need to actually sort of globalize and globally distribute START technology, right? Understand that in a situation where every country that has ratified the Sokovian Accords needs some sort of assistance, we can't expect just 5 enhanced superhumans to just move around throughout the globe, right, at a split second time where we actually have an emergency. So essentially, we would look towards distribution, or most of the countries possessing these technologies like the Iron Man suit or something like that, so that they can defend themselves, right, as a part of the Sokovian Accord. So essentially, what we don't want is United States of America forming some sort of a monopoly over this, forming some sort of a monopoly over world peace in general, right? Hence, and this is not unprecedented, USA has already done this with during the Aviation Transport Security Act, where they totally nationalized all private security firms operating in airways. So we would like some sort of a measure from United States of America to sort of nationalize Stark industry and globally distribute it free of cost to all the ratifying nations, so that they do not form a hegemony.
Thank you, delegate. Point well noted. Up next, we have Raven.
Can I exercise my right to reply?
Yes, delegate. Has the delegate offended you in any way, or?
They insinuated that the USA has a motive to establish a monopoly over protective technology and sustainable technology such as the arc react and so on.
Delegate, I'm sorry, a right to reply can only be enforced when he insults you as a person or if he infringes over your country's sovereignty. But you can address this point in your speech. Up next we have Raven.
First of all, the Stark industry or Stark technology was fully made by Tony Stark. The country did not provide anything for him to make, or nor the international committee gave him anything or the intelligence to make the technology. So asking these technology for free of cost is really not good. It should be available to the whole international governments, but you have to pay for it, right? He has made so many effort, and you're asking it for free just because your government is wrong. I feel it is wrong to do that.
Thank you, delegate. Another point well noted. Up next, we have T'Challa. You have the floor for an hour. T'Challa.
Yes. So as correctly mentioned by the previous delegate as well, I also believe that we cannot just simply go ahead, because see, for the sake of innovation, a feeling of profit or innovation doesn't just comes when you probably go ahead and say that I want to go global good. A feeling of profit is necessary, or I would say because everybody will have to bear the technical charges, the cost involved in this high, because we are talking about arc reactor, we are talking about renewable energy, so there is high degree of cost involved. So rather than going ahead with this agenda and providing the technology to all the countries free of cost, I believe we can go ahead with the public-private partnership, wherein we go ahead and associate it with the private firms as well as the government stakeholders of countries, not only the best countries but also the lower countries who have low PCI, by which I mean Ethiopia, Nigeria, and other lower countries with low PCI, so that we can probably have an equal distribution of information technology as well as power among all the countries. So yes, that's it from my side.
Point of information.
Yes, delegate.
right? If you realize that a lot of, let's say, scientific companies are acquired by the government when, let's say, they make researches which go against the law. Essentially, when Jarvis, which essentially Stark Industries led to the formation of Ultron, which led to the destruction of Sokovia, and they will be like sort of accountable under a lot of laws which currently aren't enforced because Sokovia cause is still not a thing. But if they are, don't you think it is perfectly justified under a lot of international laws to take over Stark Industries because what he did with Ultron?
No, even I'm not.
Delegate, sorry, just one question. I will give you time to recognize. I will give you time to reply, but just make sure that they're recognized by the chair. Yes, delegate, you can reply to his question now. I'm sorry for that.
What I meant to say, I'm not saying that Stark Industries should not be given the power to go. Stark Industries should not actually see. What am I trying to? Can you please repeat your question, sir?
Right. So when some laws are violated, governments can acquire the company, can take over the company. So essentially, if Sokovia Accords are ratified, don't you think under the crimes that Tony Stark committed by supplying weapons to a lot of aggressors, and two, and this is important, literally inventing Ultron, which led to so much destruction and loss of lives, don't you think under those crimes we can go ahead and acquire at least the weapon sector of Stark Industries, which by the way is a huge industry?
Well, I don't know whether you have actually heard my opinion or not, but I'm actually in favor of, publicizing Stark Industry globally. I never mentioned that I want to hold the rights of Stark Industry to US only. I wanted to say that it's in our benefit and the benefit of the global good to go ahead and globalize Stark Industry. But what I did mention was the fact that rather than going free of cost, we need innovation, we need bearance of the cost, we need to take care of all the charges involved. So we cannot just go ahead on the basis of information, free public.
Please conclude.
But I am in favor of this motion. That's what I wanted to say in case you didn't get it from the first.
Delegate.
Point of information. What about vibranium technology developed by the Wakandans?
First,
You are Wakanda is a third world country. So if you are in favor of nationalizing Stark Industries, then you should also nationalize vibranium technology. Because
actually I have just got a ring at my home. Just a second, I'm just coming in 15 seconds.
Okay.
All right, delegate.
Okay, so I think it's my floor now.
Yes, delegate. Reed Richards is next.
Yeah.
Before that, it seems like T'Challa has to deal with some tribes on the south of the border. So she will go deal with that. He will go deal with that. I think Xi Jinping also had a point. So we will recognize that. We'll recognize both their points when T'Challa is back. Up until then, Reed Richards, you have the floor for an hour, for a minute.
Yeah. So when during Xi Jinping's speech, he said that to distribute Iron Man technology to all the countries so that they can use it for their defense. It's like saying making the nuclear atom bombs free, nuclear atomic technology free for all the countries.
But he didn't say nuclear technology, right? He just specified
he said to nationalize Iron Man technology to all the countries so that they can defend themselves.
Delegate, do you have a question at the end?
Yeah.
You want to
know what I am trying to say that he said.
Do you have a question for Xi Jinping? Is that what?
No, I want to oppose him.
Delegate, again, to oppose a delegate, please do so in your speech, which you will be.
This is my speech only.
Oh, all right. Then, delegate, you have the floor for a minute.
Yeah. So during Xi Jinping's speech, he said that to nationalize the Iron Man technology to all the countries so that they would be able to defend themselves. It's like saying that to nationalize the nuclear atomic bomb technology to all the countries so that they can defend themselves. How can each country get millions of Iron Man get the technology? Every country has different capacity. They can using that technology, they can build millions of Iron Man suits. And how does it defend? Now, for example, US has 1 million Iron Man suits, China has 1 million Iron Man suits, India has 500,000 Iron Man suits. Smaller countries have even lesser. Doesn't this create dominance? How can you say it's like saying that USA would have 100 atomic bombs, Russia would have 100 atomic bombs, and all other countries would have five atomic bombs. Still, it is destructive for the whole. It's destructive for Earth. How can you say that each country should get the Iron Man technology to defend themselves? Because each country has a limited capacity of resources.
Delegate, please conclude.
Point of information.
Delegate, are you done? Okay, thank you, Delegate. Yes, we will take 1 point of information because we are short.
Right. So firstly, I don't think atom bombs are within the mandate of this committee because we're talking about enhanced superhumans and Iron Man suit is a enhancer. And secondly, the thing you just stated that smaller countries will have less capacity to have these resources is literally the reason I want to globalize it so that every country can have it regardless of their financial or purchasing capacity.
No, yeah, no. Here, wait. The point you want to make is to nationalize a technology. You are not saying to allocate same number of Iron Man suits to each country. You are just telling to share the technology. Using the technology, you can iterate upon it and create multiple suits. So then the financial aspects come of each country. Okay. So it's like, okay, let me make it simpler. It's like six.
Thank you, Delegate.
Richards will have to wrap up.
Maintain decorum.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, Delegate, I'll just recognize your point in a second. If y'all, delegates, just a reminder to committee that if y'all want to have a one-on-one discussion, there is always a motion to challenge, which is accepted by the chair. Also, I would like to say that given that this topic is about the US government and Tony Stark, at the end of this moderated caucus, we will give them a chance to speak if they wish to. Up next, we will have Professor X.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Sorry, yes, Delegate.
Right. So Reed Richards was going into the semantics of the motion that I stated. Wasn't it clear enough that I was talking about distributing Stark tech?
You said distributing the technology. You did not say that.
Delegate, I'm sorry, I'll have to mute you.
Delegate
Reed Richards, Delegate, please, you have not been recognized. Let's maintain decorum in committee. I'm just gonna mute both of y'all for the time being. But yes, Delegate, that is okay. You could clarify that in your point, but yes, that's an important point that does not constitute a point of information. So thank you, Delegate. Your point has been noted. Up next, we have
Hriday, even Chala is back. Like Chala also had a
right. Yeah. So we will take 2 questions for T'Challa at the end of this moderator.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah. Up next, we have Tony Stark. Sorry, Professor X. Sorry, Delegate. That's yeah.
Okay, so one thing I have noticed in this entire discussion is that we are focused on questioning others, debating, and not reaching to a point where we converge on something, a point of solution, something that actually works for the world. The technology that is the question of this debate is sure useful and can help for developmental purposes. But it does need the acknowledgement of a company, like certain delegates mentioned, that it is, after all, their work. So to provide it for free is quite unfair. Now, giving the technology to the entire world can worsen the situation further. The entire world, as you know, it rests on a state of power balance, where if a certain technology is provided to the entire world at the same time, it can cause fluctuations in that and can result in chaos. While I also do not endorse the power being vested in a particular country, what needs to be done, according to me, is create an overseeing body, a committee that is a collaboration of both the mutants as well as the humans, where both have equal power, so that they can decide and oversee the violent side of the Stark technologies, while the renewable sector, the sector for developmental purposes, with acknowledgement of the Stark industries, can be distributed to the world, while the non-violent sector needs profit needs to be the profit aspect of that needs to be retained to the Stark Industries. Another problem that arises with this whole concept of distribution is the fact that most countries, as we know it, do not have the capacity to entertain such modern technology. The most countries that we talk about still lack in technologies such as solar power, nuclear power, though these are not the purview of the discussion. But when these countries are way back in these sectors that we consider to be quite ancient comparatively, how can they suddenly adapt to a very modern, very advanced scientific technology? So what we need to do then is to create a separate body that can enhance the development of these modern sectors in the different countries of the world, where these renewable resources can be used for the benefit of humanity as well as mutants. So this is the point I like to raise. I'll yield the rest of my time to the chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a point of information. So if you globalize arc reactor technology for renewable energy purposes, but countries like China have used mining rigs which mined public cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. They were the first movers in this space, while other countries had not reached a stable point of getting mining equipments. So China, using its first mover advantage, can take over the whole public blockchain system like Ethereum and Bitcoin using the arc reactor technology. China just needs to add more mining rigs, while other countries have not yet developed proper mining ecosystem of cryptocurrencies and public blockchains.
Delegate, how is arc reactor technology related to?
Yeah, because
Bitcoin
arc reactor technology provides energy, and mining Bitcoin and mining cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum and maintaining the distributed ledger blockchain requires huge amounts of energy, and energy from the arc reactor can be used by the mining rigs to mine cryptocurrency and maintain the blockchain record.
Just saying that can apply to any country. That can apply to any country that wants to
but some countries were
Bitcoin.
first mover. Yeah, but some countries were first mover in developing the mining technology because it requires huge graphic power to compute the hashes in the network, in the blockchain network. So some countries could gain monopoly over the public blockchain.
All right, Reed Richards, I understand your question to a point, and for that I need to mention that you need to understand the situation of the world as it is. There will always be certain countries, always be certain individuals that have a comparative advantage over another. You yourself will have an advantage over another person. That's how it is. So what we can do is we can ensure that the system that we provide ensures that the amount of technology we share is in relation to the status or in relation to the needs of a particular country. So if China does not require, in terms of their power and their prestige and the advancement in technology, that much money or that much resources shall not be awarded to China and US and other such powerful developed nations. Whereas the committee that I suggested, a combination of mutants as well as human beings, can come together and decide on the countries that need such, that require, not just want, but need such a development in their specific countries. So for that, we can decide on the allocation according to the national requirement, whereas dangerous technologies shall not be distributed among the countries.
Point of information.
To me?
Delegate, we will not entertain any points of information right now due to shortage of time. But we will accept one more speaker, which is Tony Stark, if he wishes to speak.
Yeah, I wish to speak.
Delegate, you have the floor for a minute.
Okay. So as any invention goes, Tony Stark's suits and other creation is also an invention solely derived out of his brain and mind. That is me. Tony Stark is me right now. So the patent rights are with Tony, and it can only be given up with a price if he agrees to comply with the offered price. And let's say the government has acquired it. The government is willing to pay a price that Tony is agreeing to accept. What if the government used this technology to create an undefeatable army? Already we know that the US Army is one of the strongest. And so how is it for the greater good? And what would be the reaction from the other countries to such a situation? It could lead to sort of like a nuclear arms race. Giving up the patent rights would mean giving the government rights to make more. And what incentive does US have to go ahead with such a step and incur such heavy
Delegate,
costs
seconds left.
when the USA can very well monopolize the creation of Stark Industries? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate. Point well noted. That brings us to the end of this moderated caucus.
Point of
Yes, Delegate, I will get back to that in a second. We have less time. However, we will accept three motions, right? Any of three motions right now. We can either start with a new moderated caucus. We can have a question answer session with the delegate of Tony Stark, where we'll accept three questions. Or we can have a vote. We can have a formal vote to decide whether or not Stark Industries must share their technology with the United Nations under the laws of the United Nations Organization on Registrations of Mutants and Enhanced Superhumans. So we can do either one of these three things. Delegates, we will now accept motions on the floor. Please raise your hands if you have any motions. Delegate,
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
yes.
Can the voting follow a question answer session with Tony Stark? Wouldn't that be better
Yes.
for the company?
Yes, that if you raise that motion, that will be looked favorably upon by the chair.
Okay, so motion to have a question answer session with Tony Stark followed by a formal voting on the issue.
Thank you, Delegate. Do we have any other motions on the floor? Anything different? Or can we vote on this?
I have a point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, Delegate.
Given that this is a question of what the US should be doing in terms of, global having a global distribution of industry that is in the US, I've not gotten the chance to speak, and I would like to do so.
Yes, Delegate, that actually will be entertained. So before we move on with the motion, you have a minute to make your point. Thank you, Delegate. Point well brought up. So I will give you a minute, starting now.
The Stark industry was able to do what it has because of the freedom and the conducive environment that the US has. Does the rest of the world actually want to receive regularly doled out charity of the US and this private US entity? I'm sure that the Stark Industries will share its technology with the world, and the US will encourage it to do so. If it doesn't, in the case that it doesn't, the US will and commits to put pressure on the Stark Industries to do the same, because it is one of the US's biggest objectives to help the global development and ensure global peace. I yield back to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate.
Information.
Delegate, again, we will not. Okay, fine. We'll accept one point of information, but we need to get to voting.
All right. So considering the fact that, let's say, United States of America either way sends, let's say, peacekeeping forces, right, of military. Now the question is this: would you rather have a price tag on those forces, or would it rather be a doled out charity? I think the world would choose a doled out charity instead of paying for it. So the situation is same, since we're dealing with super enhanced human beings and extraordinary circumstances. I'm just saying that we don't put price tags on defense technology.
Okay.
Yes, Delegate, you have 20 seconds to respond to that.
The point I was majorly trying to make is that it doesn't have to be through a committee that says, okay, the US is going to give this much and this much of technology to a certain country. The point I was trying to make is that the US will do this anyway without having to go through the whole bother of going through all these committees and other kinds of regulations put on it. It'll do it anyway.
Thank you, Delegate. Point well noted. Now we will move into a 3-minute question answer session if committee votes for it. So a 3-question answer session with the delegate of Tony Stark. All those in favor, please raise your hands. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 votes. Delegates, all those in favor, please raise your hands. I do not see any hands.
Actually, I needed to address some complaint and issue, which I've been trying to raise my hand for like a really long time.
Point of parliamentary inquiry. The same. I am facing the same problem as well.
Yeah.
Yes, apologies. But just to clarify, that's a point of personal privilege. Please do what's the. Yes, Delegate, go ahead.
Actually, the thing is, I am having issues with one of the delegates continuously, but I have been like ignoring it because Reed Richards, especially, he's been speaking out of turn, like not in the context of something. And even when the judge, the guest, had told him to not, he still went on talking. And the topic over here was about Sokovia Accords and about super student program, but he instead went on to another, I don't know what, but he was just divulging, and that's kind of rude. But I couldn't tolerate that, so I just wanted to like bring that up basically, because I guess others might have also faced the same issue. I don't know.
He has spoken out of turn.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's very rude, and like he just went on interrupting again and again. Even when you also, Hriday, when even you brought that thing up, I don't know if others have noticed this. I guess others also had an issue with it, but nobody's speaking about it maybe. But I just wanted to bring this up because since a long time I've been raising my hand to this reason.
Point of personal privilege, I feel the same as well, because I had a lot of points to discuss and get in front of the committee, but I was not able to.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to defend myself.
One second. Sorry. Just 1 second. Usually we do not accept complaints about the behavior of other delegates as a point of personal privilege. However, I think this point can be noted down. Delegate of Reed Richards, if you just wanna, that's a point directly to you.
Yeah. So I had brought up 2 points. First was
Let him complete. Let Hriday complete.
Yes, delegate.
Yeah.
Delegate, just one thing. It's okay. There is no need to respond to that. It's not a point of information or anything. Just make note of that and keep that in mind. That
I just want to say that I did not go out of context. I said that the energy from the arc reactor technology could be used to take control over the public blockchain.
Okay, again, delegate, it's okay. That's your point of view. That's and what she said was her point of view. I think we can leave it at that because we have to vote on. But delegate, yes, please. This is a message to all delegates. Please maintain decorum and only speak when you are recognized by the chair. If you have a point, you can unmute yourself and say I have a point, but that's about it. After that, please wait to be recognized by the chair.
Brother, I just saw in the chat box. So Tichala had written, I had some points. Can I take it? She had gotten up right for some time.
Right.
Her points were delayed, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for.
She 2 questions towards her, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we had 2 questions. I believe we had them from Captain America and Reed Richards. We had 2 questions for Tichala. So we will take them now. But we will have them done quick. We will have 30 seconds per question. So yes, Delegate Captain America, you have the floor.
Point of personal privilege. I didn't have a question for Tichala specifically. I was trying to raise a motion for a moderate to extend the moderated caucus. I didn't have any question for Tichala.
Oh, all right. That's okay. Reed Richards, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So if Tichala is supporting to nationalize Tony Stark's technology, then Wakanda being a third world country and having superior technology than Tony Stark of the vibranium should also share. How does it make sense that Tony Stark would share and Wakanda wouldn't?
Okay, thank you, Delegate. The delegate of Tichala has 20 seconds to respond to this question, after which we will move to a 3 question answer session with Tony Stark, and then we will vote.
Simply addressing again with the same kind of answer, I would still say we are discussing about how dissemination of Stark industry can be done across the world, not about the technology that Wakanda have. Wakanda is not the point of context that we have been talking, or the motion that we have in touch as of now. So we cannot simply go ahead and talk about Wakanda when the whole motion and the whole meeting and the whole debate and the whole background has been actually been Stark by keeping Stark Industries, because Stark Industries is something very different from Wakanda, if that's what you're talk about. That would be my first take. As far as distribution of technology that Wakanda has can be argued upon, but that's something very different. And if you want to go ahead with this discussion, we can definitely have a motion for it. But considering whatever we have had discussions about what we have had discussed so far, I don't think we actually have any point
Delegate, please conclude.
to compare what.
It's
I
okay.
have a point. Can I add?
No, delegate, you cannot respond to a point of information. Also, we are short of time. So we will have 3 questions for delegates. Could you all lower your hands? Xi Jinping, Trump, and
No, I do have a question. Let's consider it.
we are moving into the question answer session now with
Yeah,
Tony Stark. So we will have 3 questions. Could you all raise your hands, whoever has questions? Your hand is raised for the question, right? Yeah, so Xi Jinping, Trump, and Captain America. Yes, Xi Jinping, you have the floor for 20 seconds.
Right. So do you realize there are 2 things? Firstly, if we don't sort of globalize it, then essentially what happens is smaller countries are incapable of purchasing these technologies from Stark. And secondly, in situations where we need multiple suits in multiple emergency situations, because the world is not a unicorn world where there's just suddenly just in one Sokovia there's a problem and we need Iron Man suits. So if we need in multiple instances and locations, don't you think it is much more plausible if we have multiple Iron Man suits across various countries throughout the globe?
But we need to consider, we need to bring into question the government too. Like, what incentive does the US government, why would it globalize it when it can very well monopolize it? If Tony Stark gives up the patent rights, then why would USA go ahead and provide these machinery for free to the rest of the world?
I mean, that's a hypothesis.
Thank you, delegate.
The US government will have incentives.
Delegate, sorry, we will not take follow-ups.
Follow-ups.
It's okay. We will now move on to the next question, just because we're short of time, nothing else. We will now move on to the next question by President Trump.
This is to Tony Stark. And how much do you value the kind of conducive environment that the US has, as well as do you not make a commitment to giving out your technology and this stuff that will really help global development and peace and security on your own? Will you not take the initiative on your own and be proactive in doing so?
I would. It is important to understand the political ramifications of our actions, first of all. Even though it is not officially stated, we are seen an American organization, the Avengers, and our military operations beyond our own country costs the government and myself, because I'm essentially the one funding the undertakings. In my opinion, no, I would not like to globalize the machinery and the suits, because you can only imagine the objective that the government would try to achieve with weapon like this. It would lead into an arms race of sorts. For example, what if American powers like Russia or North Korea gain access to such power and even further enhance it in ways?
Delegate, please conclude. You can conclude with one line.
So I'm in no way an advocate for that. I'm thinking for the greater good, and hence I want the government intervention in terms of arms control, not arms monopolization or globalization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate. We will take the last question from Captain America. Captain, you have 20 seconds.
So before I start the question, I'd like to say, Tony, I've worked with you. We're very good acquaintances. We've been on the field a lot of times. I know what happens when when technology falls into the wrong hands. So keeping that in mind, I'd like to ask you, would there be a committee or on intense scrutinization in the company itself to make which kinds of technology public and private? Because I'm pretty sure you can make, let's say, the arc reactor technology public because of renewable, because of the clean source of energy. But I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to make your Iron Man technology private. So would you give me a little bit of clarification on that?
Can you just repeat the question? I lost my train of thought.
Oh yeah, what I wanted to say was, will there be a scrutiny into what kind of technology will make public and which will be private to you?
Yes, sure, that could be considered, because taking into consideration the Iron Man suit, yes, I would not prefer for it to be globalized, but other such machinery that would contribute towards global peace security, there could be a division.
Sorry to interrupt, but Tony Stark, what other machinery are we talking about? other than your armor and all? What specific machinery does Stark Industries
Doesn't,
make?
this is a hypothetical situation. The industry very well can take up certain experiments and make machineries that would help in global peace and security.
All
Since
right.
it's a hypothetical question.
Thank you, Delegate. We will now accept motions. We will look forward to a motion to get into formal voting to decide the issue of internationalization of Stark
Stark Tech.
I would, yes, Delegate of Xi Jinping, you raised your hand first.
Right. So motion to move into formal voting to decide on the moderated caucus of Stark Industries being national globalized.
I have a motion to not globalize this Stark industry technology, but only to give the Stark industrial technology to UN peacekeeping missions, United Nations peacekeeping missions. That could be restricted to that,
Delegate, sorry,
but not complete globalization of it.
Delegate, you were not recognized by the chair, but yes, we will vote on both those issues together. So we will have a formal voting on whether, so you can either give, so we will have two options for our, we will have three options for our formal voting. Number one, should UN technology, should Stark technology be given to all countries? The second one will be, should it just be given to the United Nations peacekeeping forces? And the third one will be, it shouldn't be given to anyone. So when I call out your name, you can either say 1, 2, or 3. So let's begin with roll call voting. We will first take attendance. You can either say present or present and voting. I will just do this fast again because we're short of time. USA.
Present and voting.
UK. UK is not there. Tony Stark.
Present and voting.
T'Challa.
Present and voting.
Charles Xavier.
Present and voting.
Wade Wilson.
Present and voting.
Reed Richards.
Present.
China. The people.
Present and voting.
Xi Jinping, thank you. Vladimir Putin.
Present.
Captain America.
Present and voting.
Eric Lensher.
Present and voting.
Excuse me. Raven Mystique.
Present and voting.
Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson is.
She had an emergency, so she left the meeting.
Oh, all right. Thanks. And Scott Lang. Seems that Scott Lang is also not present for voting. We will now take a systematic, a formal vote. Usually we'd ask all press members to leave, but since there are none, we can, could we pause the live stream for the formal voting? Yes, if we could just pause the live stream for a formal vote. We will be back shortly. We would like to begin with the US. You can either say 1, 2, or
Excuse
3.
me, point of inquiry.
Yes.
When we refer to the United Nations peacekeeping force, are we referring to the one by humans, the one by mutants, or a combination of the two?
It's
What
a
are
one
they?
by humans. Yes. It's
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
So it's
Yes.
combined?
Since there is no unmoderated caucus, would you be willing to give just 30 seconds to US government and me to pitch for the final time before the voting?
yes, delegate. That's a good point, and that would be looked favorably upon. So yes, if we could bring Tony Stark and Xi Jinping since they are the two advocates for and against. And we will give you all both 30 seconds each, but only 30 seconds. Xi Jinping, since you raised the motion, you have the floor.
Right. So guys, don't get confused. UN peacekeeping forces is literally United States of America. United States of America literally controls half of the actions that UN peacekeeping forces take because they contribute to 30% of those peacekeeping forces and half the revenue, right? So essentially don't fall into this trap of being like, okay, we don't want USA to distribute it globally. We want UN to do it. They're literally the same things, are semantically different. Now recognize why I would want this is because different countries have different capacities. We don't live in a world of unicorns, right? We are at constant war. So at a point of which when, let's say, Israel wants the technology to prevent attacks from Hamas and Palestine also wants the technology for some converse purpose, essentially what we look at is USA providing it to their ally. And because because US is a capitalist economy and they control Stark Industry and what Tony Stark does, that is why it is essential to globalize this and give it to all countries to make the war fair in this shit show of the world.
Yes, thank you.
I have a point of information.
No, delegate, we aren't accepting points of information right now, but if you could just describe what you want to say in 10 seconds.
Yeah, he said that United States contribute to the half of the revenue of the United Nations peacekeeping organization. United States also contributed more than half of the funding of World Health Organization, but did it help control? Did United States able to control the World Health Organization during the COVID-19 pandemic?
COVID-19 doesn't exist. We're in 2017.
No, but he said that United States
Delegate,
controlled the
your
UN
point has been
peacekeeping
noted.
organization. No.
Delegate, your point has been noted.
Time is up there.
Point well made. But yes, that was a good point, Delegate. But we will proceed with the with Tony Stark. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think the Tony Stark inventions should be extended to the United Nations peacekeeping forces and not to the US itself for globalization, because United Nations peacekeeping forces comprise of other countries too. You can never trust USA given the past decision-making skills. So it's in your hands, but I would definitely go for United Nations. It is United Nations because it works on consensus. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. That will be all. We will now move into voting. Before we move into voting, we have with us two of our very supportive and encouraging faculty members, Ms. Sarita and Ms. Firdaus. We also have with us our chairperson, Aryan Sanghvi, of Arthonomics 2021. Since we cannot physically rise, I would request all of y'all to raise your hands for our faculty and for our chairperson. Yes, we will now move in. You guys can lower your hands now. We will now move into formal voting. We will now move into formal voting on this issue. United States of America.
3.
Anthony Stark.
2.
T'Challa
2.
of Wakanda. 2. Professor Xavier, Charles Xavier.
2.
Wade Wilson, aka
3.
Reed Richards.
2.
Xi Jinping.
1.
Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin, are you there? Okay, we will skip him for now. Captain America.
3.
3. Magneto.
3.
Mystique.
3.
Okay, since Vladimir Putin does not seem to be here, we will take a final count of the votes. There's one vote. Yes, delegate, the vote has been very narrow, but it seems that we have a tie between 1, 2, and 3. There are 5 people who want to transfer control of Stark Technology to a foreign power, and there are 5 people who don't. So it's up to the discretion of committee whether we want to have a vote on whether or not we should choose between option 2 and 3, or whether option 3 prevails and Stark Technology remains with Tony Stark. This is quite a precarious position. We have not seen something like this happen in the history of UNORMS, where you have an equal number of people for 3 motions. So, delegates, are there any motions on the floor? A motion to re-vote would be in order. If the vote is the same as it was now, we will continue with Tony Stark being privatized, with Stark Industries being privatized. If there is another vote, then we can look at the second option. So, are there any motions on the floor?
Motion to re-vote on this.
Yes, delegate, that is in order. We will accept 2 30-second statements again by Xi Jinping and Tony Stark on the revote, given that there has been a tie. This
Sorry?
time, we'll give Tony Stark the floor, unless Xi Jinping wants to go first. Tony Stark, would you like to go first or last?
Yes, I can go first.
Thank you.
So since most people are preferring to, since interiorly, I want the Tony Stark Industries to be under my control, I would say that it would be better if that happens and not to the UN peacekeeping forces or to the USA. So make your votes, make your choices.
Okay, first, this is not a Tony Stark fan club, so we don't care. But secondly, recognize that the reason why I want globalization is literally so that every country can have an equal share of defensive mechanisms. If you don't want Tony Stark's technology out of USA or out of Stark Tech, then what essentially happens is USA controls the monopoly that they have over world peace. You must break that right now by letting other countries also have access to the technology at cost they can afford, so that the world actually has peace.
Thank you, delegate. Point noted. We will now move into formal vote. We will now, for a lack of time, have informal voting. All those in favor of motion 1, please raise your hands.
Point of parliamentary inquiry. Are we doing two motions or one? All 3? Are we revoting for all 3, or you actually rephrased it to either it goes out or it does not go out? So is that 2 motions?
Yeah. Okay. We can do that, delegate. Thank you. So all those in favor of motion 1 of not keeping Tony Stark private but internationalizing it, please raise your hands now. Delegate, you can either be for motion 1, for motion 2, or you can abstain from the vote. But you will have to raise your hands. Currently, we have 2 people for. Yes, all those against, the 4 people can lower your hand. All those against, please raise your hands. 4 against, 6, 7 against. Okay, 8 against. And all those abstaining, please raise your hands. We have Tony Stark, are you abstaining from your own vote?
I'm sorry, no.
It's okay. You can lower your hand. That's all right. So we have one abstainee. With an overwhelming vote of 8 for, 2 against, and 1 abstainee, this motion passes. Congratulations, Delegate. Tony Stark Industries will remain private. Yes, thank you, delegates. Well done. We will now accept motions. Let's remember that our main agenda over here is the ratification of the Sokovian Accords, and we have 20 minutes of committee session left. So what the chair would look upon now is a round robin style moderated caucus where everyone gives their views on the Sokovian Accords. And then we vote upon the accords themselves.
Motion to start a round robin. For speaker timing 1 minute. 90 seconds is fine, right? Just a
Yes,
clarification.
yes, delegate, that's okay.
For speaker timing 90 seconds. A round robin on the topic Sokovian Accords, should it be ratified?
Yes, delegate, thank you. We will now move into a round robin. Please raise your hands as and when anyone wants to go first. Otherwise, we will follow a normal system of a round robin where I will call out names and you can go. First, we have the United States of America. You have the floor for 1.5 minutes.
I find it somewhat ironic that by being concerned about efficiency and making on-the-spot decisions, delegates are willing to sacrifice on important democratic principles like accountability, which is primarily what the Sokovian Accords look to bring. Any powerful entity is not isolated and able to move around and act with complete impunity. It acts with repercussions, and these repercussions need to be brought. These repercussions, if we have the Sokovian Accords, could be done in a systematic manner in a committee where activities are regulated and consequences are mitigated. The damage done in Sokovia was horrendous and is a very prime example of why we need this kind of accountability and ability to deal with the consequences of damage. Because as it stands now, the Avengers act, and then the rest of the countries of the world have to go and clear up after the messes that the Avengers have made. That is the way we are working right now. If we have the Sokovian Accords, we would be able to actually have we would be able to include countries in decision-making processes for major events like, warding off evil superheroes. I yield back to the chair.
Thank you, delegate. Point well made. Up next, we'll have Xi Jinping from China.
Right. So I'll start. Yeah. So delegates recognize this very simple fact, right? There's no problem with accountability. The problem here is the authority that we're imposing on these superheroes. I'm going to talk about a few problems here. The first of which is that why are we normalizing giving punishment without any trial and indefinite incarceration, as if that does not violate a lot of human rights, right? Secondly, why are we normalizing espionage in the form of trying to dig out secret organizations across all countries, right? We're normalizing a lot of things here, right? We don't want this registration of superheroes because that will lead, because a simple data breach can be very detrimental to this world, right? Recognize that the problem why this is a very big problem is because how geopolitics works in general, right? How USA has a hegemony over a lot of United Nations decisions, how we can easily lobby with smaller countries and get decisions that align with their political agendas, right? At a point of which where you try to align superheroes who should be bipartisan and you try to bring them into a political spectrum, what essentially happens is you lose the nobility of those heroes themselves, right? Understand that is exactly the reason why we do not need those accords. All we need is to have some sort of a panel where SHIELD can share their intel with domestic countries, and we can have some sort of a communication which does not exist. What we do not need is a big book of some sort of a imposition that they're putting on these heroes who cannot work anymore freely, who cannot make quick decisions, who will be caught in the policy paralysis of arguing countries of China, USA, and Russia. We do not want that. We do not want our world to look like that. Hence, I urge you to not ratify the Soviet.
Thank you, Delegate. Up next, we have Anthony Stark. Tony Stark, you have the floor for 1.5 minutes.
Just a quick point of parliamentary inquiry before that.
Sure,
So
sure.
the communicate never got used. Like we never got the time to raise a moderator. I never got time to raise a moderator caucus to use that what I sent.
Right. Okay, Delegate, I have not. I don't think I have received your communique.
I have sent it on chat DMs.
Oh, all right. Yeah, apologies about that. The thing is, the chat box is a little messed up right now. Do one thing. I will send you my email address. Could you just email the communique to me?
No, sure.
Yeah, Delegate, apologies for that. That's an error from my side. I think there was a communique from Ford also, but I cannot. Oh, sorry, that's Xi Jinping. Yeah, I just got your communique. All right, before till then, we will move on with Tony Stark. You have the floor for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So the question is, should we view enhanced individuals as autonomous agents or as possible weapons of mass destruction? The Avengers, the enhanced individuals do have powers that they cannot control, that are not within the control of the being. So this makes the Sokovia Accords more important than ever. The global governance question is not just about regulating existing superheroes, but ensuring that states don't try to create any more enhanced individuals who decide to go to the villain route. The unstated but vital purpose of the Sokovia Accords is to ensure that the proliferation of enhanced individuals does not escalate beyond anyone's control. True, the Accords won't prevent non-signatories or violent non-state actors such as Hydra from trying to create more enhanced individuals. But we know that government have an incentive to try this stuff. The existence of an international regime to regulate superheroes might prevent the creation of more supervillains and eventually pressure non-signatories to join the Accords.
Thank you, Delegate. Point well noted. Up next, we have Vladimir Putin. You have the floor for 1.5 minutes. Putin, delegates also, I have been informed that there are certain delegates who have another event to attend at 3 o'clock. Is there any such delegate present in committee right now?
Yes, Stella T. Chala.
Sorry?
It's me, Stella. I have to go for case conundrum.
Okay, all right. So basically right now what we're going to do is right after the round robin, we're going to have a vote. So I'm going to let you talk before Putin, and you can send me your vote on personal chat, followed by which you can leave for the next round. Is there anyone else who has to leave? Okay, all right, that's perfect. So before Putin, T'Challa, you have the floor for 1.5 minutes.
Okay, so I would love to speak now. Firstly, we need to understand that UN is democratic. There are very falsify as well as malicious statements that have been put forward by the other assemblies that always claim that UN has high monopoly, UN is biased, UN is not taking decisions, but that's not the case. UN is democratic. The reason that we are in this committee, the reason we have such a diverse pool of people and speakers from so many different backgrounds is just the fact to emphasize that UN is democratic. So you cannot simply go ahead and say that US is unbiased, UN is US, that is the reason the decision doesn't count. Second, talking about the accountability, yes, the question does hold. If I say UN is accountable, if any people die, if there is mass destruction, US is accountable, UN is accountable. You can put me on the trial, you can sue me, but what about the fact, can Avengers be sued? If there is a mass destruction, and even if say any experiment or any other technological innovation that goes wrong and leads to destruction of mass of lives, will you be suing them? Can they be held on trial? Is there any accountability?
Delegate, please conclude.
Any legality? And hence I believe that more than 65% of the nations stood stand by us, and hence we believe in the autonomy, and I believe so these accords should be moved ahead. That's it.
Thank you, Delegate. If you could just send me your vote on personal chat, I will be able to vote in proxy for you. Yes, Delegate, thank you for joining us. It's been great having you. Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks, Attorney.
Up next, we have Vladimir Putin. You have the floor for 1.5 minutes. Delegate of Putin is not on this call. It seems we will move on to Captain America.
Good evening, delegates. So I like to say a couple of things. In 2012, when the huge Loki attacked with a lot of Chitauri, after the attack got over, Tony Stark came up with an organization called Damage Control, while in association with the US government. So we are not really going unaccounted for the things we do. We are accounted. And what I'd like to also mention is adding on to Xi Jinping's point that when you try to politicize superheroes or heroes, things go bad every single time. Let's say all the countries ratify with the Sokovia Accords and they go ahead with it. And I'm pretty sure the countries which won't ratify with the Accords, they will come up with their own superhero teams. Then this will lead to another kind of competition where superheroes are the competition. And that cannot be tolerated. Superheroes are not a competition. They are about saving the world. I'd like to rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Point well made. Up next, we have Professor X.
The question of whether the Sokovia Accords should be ratified or not, the issue is not the existence of the accord itself, but the discriminatory practices that are practiced in the accord. The most primary example of that is a lack of equality, as mentioned before, that the accord proposes, where mutants are subjugated under the control of the governing body of the United Nations. What I propose is that the governing body themselves should have equal members from the mutant community as well as equal members from the human community, and together they must take decisions and not enforce the decisions of the body on them. Next, the mutants must be given complete freedom, though certain restrictions as decided by the committee, which I mentioned before, so that the mutants do not feel that they are discriminated or they are second-class citizens in this world. Next problem arises is the fact that all countries themselves must politically agree to this accord. It should not be just just on the whims and fancies of a few leaders, and they shouldn't just be taking the decisions for the entire mutant community in their country. So that must also be ensured, that the entire nation and the parliaments of each country must be agreeable to this committee, to this governing body that is proposed. The next issue is the politicization. Only 117 nations have agreed to it. So as long as the entire set of countries does not agree to it, we cannot have such a body. So the specifications must be made in such a way that everyone agrees and everyone holds it close to them, and not just a few countries, not just a political issue. And lastly, we must ensure that the individual and selfish needs of individual characters in the world politics must not dominate the interest of the globe. So this, such a commission, such a committee, such a governing body must not make the mutants useless when an immediate threat the world faces. So the mutants must have the authority to take action immediately, though later in communication with the body, so that if a threat approaches, they must be able to take action. Therefore, we must not criminalize heroes and only encourage vigilantes. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Up next, we have the last 5 speakers, beginning with Wade Wilson.
Yeah, so I'm already basically registered. I've worked for the government plenty of times and was created by a government project. So I clearly have got no moral stake against regulation or registration, but being Deadpool, I don't care about anyone else enough to be against registration. The only way I profit off of this is, or have fun due to it, which are my 2 main motivations in life. That is hunting down unregistered heroes for the registration side, or the paycheck which I'll get out of it, which might be easily covered by Tony Stark or T'Challa. So the Avengers' actions in Sokovia, in the war of Sokovia, have fit clearly each and every single criteria that have been laid out for mercenaries. And being the greatest mercenary alive, I think I know a bit about these criteria. So, and they'll match all of these criteria except for the one that is being motivated by profit. So private mercenaries are either strictly regulated or completely illegal in most countries. So if the Avengers fit the definition of a private mercenary, why should they be treated any differently as the most powerful private mercenary group on the planet? The governments of the world are absolutely right to demand oversight and knowledge of any operations the Avengers conduct with proper oversight. Governments can help the Avengers by providing intelligence and support that can prevent innocent people from being hurt or killed. And with Tony Stark, Reed Richards, and T'Challa on the side, we have the financial resources and the intellectual resources to back it up.
Wrap it up.
Without it, countries simply have to pick up the pieces after the Avengers are done with whatever they want. So I think this is my closing.
Thank you, Delegate. A lovely point.
Let Raven go next, because Raven says that she has a test at 3:15.
Oh, all right. Yeah, sure. Definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, Raven Mystique, you can go next.
Actually, Accords, the Sokovia Accord should be only for superheroes who are fighting, like Avengers or X-Men, not for every superhumans who have extra ability, because they are not fighting. When the Sokovia was happening, some of mutants were sitting at home and watching TV. They are not accountable for everything, and the registration will lead to further crisis to their family. They can be isolated, and hence the registration should not pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. And if you would like to send me your vote before you leave, we just have 2 speakers left. So if you don't mind waiting for the vote, then that's okay. Up next, we have our second last speaker for the day, Magneto. You have 1.5 hours, 1.5 minutes. Jesus. Yes, Delegate Magneto, you have the floor. Is Magneto present in committee?
I'm not finding Magneto.
Eric Lensher, Magneto.
Yeah, Magneto isn't there.
Oh, all right. So we will move on to our last speaker of the day, Reed Richards.
Yeah, what I want to say that the regulation is necessary, but during crisis does not speak for itself, message you before coming. So the more matured Avengers like Thor, Professor X, and Vision and others should be given superior powers and should be regulated less, whereas mutants and Avengers which have an unstable mindset like Jean Grey, Phoenix, Eric, that is Magneto, Hulk, Bucky, etc. should be regulated, and once they mature, then only they should be given superior powers. During a crisis, on-spot decision making is very important. So Avengers and mutants with a stable mindset like Professor X.
Please conclude.
Yeah, so yeah, my point is Avengers and mutants with a stable mindset and a good track record, like Mr. Fantastic, that is Reed Richards, Vision, Doctor Strange, Professor X, and Thor, should be given superior power to make on the spot decisions, and other mutants and Avengers which does not have a stable mindset, like
You're just
Jean,
repeating yourself
Delegate,
at this
delegate,
point. We
please.
got the point. Yeah.
yeah, like Jean Grey, they should be
Yeah,
regulated.
yeah.
Thank you, delegate. Point well noted. We will now shortly move into voting. However, before we proceed with formal voting, we would once again like to give a huge shout out to our sponsors. Given that we are discussing the differences between Stark funding and UN funding, we would like to talk about who is funding Arthonomics 2021. Yeah, that's the best segue I could come up with. But I would like to give a shout out to our title sponsor, First Ventures, our associate sponsor, Boston Institute of Analytics, our co-associate sponsor, Greenstee, our education partner, FinLadder and Finance Box, our event partners, MacV and Primetime, our co-partners, Step Up Analytics and Globalize, our apparel partner, Cornayas, our sustainability partner, Talmail, our official corporate gifting partner, Elan Associates, our clothing partner, Apollo House, and our gifting partner, Shalom Candles. Huge thank you for all our sponsors. We will now entertain a motion to go into formal voting on whether or not to ratify the Sokovia Accords. If there are any points or motions other than that, do raise your hands. Also, delegates who sent in communiques, apologies due to shortage of time, we could not have moderated caucuses to discuss those communiques, but your communiques have definitely been taken into account by the chairs and will factor into your while we're deciding your awards. So thank you to whoever who have sent in your communiques. Do we have any motions on the floor? Reed Richards.
Yeah, so my motion is we should only regulate Avengers and mutants with an unstable mindset, and the Avengers and mutants which have a stable mindset should be given.
What motion is that?
Yeah, for the Sokovia Accords, I am for the motion of the regulation by the Sokovia Accords for only the Avengers and mutants with an unstable mindset.
Delegate, sorry, if it's about the Sokovia Accords, then we will vote on it while we are voting for the Sokovia Accords themselves. So we can, if you want to do a motion for a clause by clause voting of the Sokovia Accords, we can do that. If you all want to vote for the Sokovia Accords in its entirety, we can do that. And that would be recommended by the chairs, since again, we have a shortage of time. So yes, do we have a motion to vote on the Sokovia Accords?
Yeah, clause by clause.
Motion to move into formal voting to vote on the Sokovia Accords.
Yes, delegate, that's in order. All those, we will vote on Xi Jinping's motion first, then we'll vote on Reed Richards' motion. Since Xi Jinping's is more disruptive. All those in favor of Xi's motion to vote on the Sokovia Accords, please raise your hands. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This motion is in order.